Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to my channel. I am Coach Sherry. I'm in a vehicle. So this is car chat and all that. And as you can see from the thumbnail, I went to go see The Color Purple. I wish I had on purple right now to commemorate that movie. Oh my goodness. So I went, it was a premiere for it here in Charlotte, North Carolina, and it was sponsored and hosted by the New North Carolina nonprofit organization. And the theater was packed, but you know what? It wasn't like a packed crowded because of course, because they were hosting it, they only had a few or a certain amount of tickets that they were giving out. And so I was just lucky to grab one. My daughter went with me, and thanks to Jill, she invited me to go. So I really appreciate you. If you're watching this, I love you. Thank you. So I read the book, The Color Purple. Growing up, my mother used to take me to the library all of the time, and I would read books by so many different authors, but especially African-American authors, and The Color Purple was one of those books. And I read it before the movie came out. You know, I didn't even know there was going to be a movie. And then when the movie came out, I don't know about you, but I've seen that movie at least 500 times. There are so many lines in that movie that I know by heart. You know, that was one of those movies that growing up, our friends would just, in certain situations, would look at each other and just spit out a line like, all my life I had to fight. And and so I really enjoyed that movie, that movement for it. And then when it came on Broadway, I went with a dear friend. We took a 36-hour trip to New York with a group of women, and we went shopping and such, but we went to go see The Color Purple on Broadway when Fantasia was in it, because Fantasia's from North Carolina, and so this group wanted to support her, and I was just so happy to be there to see the Broadway play. I grew up going to Broadway plays. I love plays. I do. And we were so lucky too to have Oprah Winfrey in the audience. And if you know how big or small Broadway theaters are, then you know that she was right there with us. And so that was exciting to have Oprah there too. And so when they were talking about doing the remake of The Color Purple, I was feeling, I was on the fence about it. I actually did a video about it before, and if I have time, I'll definitely put it up on the end of this video. But I was just kind of on the fence, because when something is done right, you don't want to have to remake it, you know? That Color Purple, the original, was amazing, and it was the jump start of many of those actors' careers. You know, that was Oprah's first acting role. Whoopi was not new to acting, but relatively still young in the game. Danny Glover, you know, it was a great movie. And so I'm like, what can you do different? You know, the setting, the scenery, the clothing, the time period, all of that was on point. So how are you going to do this again? And I'm gonna tell you, they did not disappoint. Oh my goodness, it was so good from the beginning to the end. The singing was amazing. Tamala Mann is in it. I didn't even know. Some of the actors that I had seen in the movie, I didn't even realize they were in it. Dion Cole, what? He did a phenomenal job. But, you know, the acting, the colors, the dancing, the singing, everything was beautiful. The where they shot it at, I'm not sure exactly where, but it was very appropriate for the time. I loved how they put the dates on the bottom so you can see what year it was and how it was progressing. Now, comparing it to the book, the original movie and the play, I have to say that this movie was most like the play, and it gave more detail like the book. So it is definitely different than the first movie, but the same. It does still have the same elements. And I was bracing myself in certain scenes like, okay, you have to say that line, that one line. And they did, you know, like, I's married now. And that movie was so nostalgic for me, because that is something my mother and I, we used to joke around about with The Color Purple. And when I got married, after I said I do and we kissed, I turned to my mother and her and I both said at the same time, I was married now. And that comes from The Color Purple. And I was really expecting to go see it on Christmas Day. So my mother and I had this tradition, even after I got married, because my parents used to always come to us for Christmas. And my mother and I used to go to all the new movies that came out on Christmas Day together, just her and I, not my father, not my husband, not my children, just my mother and I. And the last movie that we did that we were able to do that was Dreamgirls. And I know if my mother was alive that we would definitely go see The Color Purple together on Christmas Day. Even though I saw the premiere, I definitely would pay to go see it. I was lucky to get those tickets complimentary. You know, the tickets were free for all of us, but I would definitely pay to see that movie. You know, it was well thought out. You get a better understanding of what the color purple is. You didn't really hear it referenced too much in the original movie, but this movie, they definitely referenced it. Taraji did a phenomenal job as Shug Avery. Oh, listen, she really needs to get some type of nomination for Best Supporting Actress, because you could tell that Shug Avery probably was one of her favorite characters growing up, because she embodied Shug's character to a T. You know, the way she moved, carried herself, talked, dressed, moved. It was just great. And you know what? I was looking at something about The View, and I guess Oprah was on The View. I didn't see the full episode of it, but I had seen a commentary about how Oprah and Whoopi didn't get along, and how Whoopi was mad about this color purple, or I don't know, maybe it was me getting things mixed up and not really looking at it in its entirety, but I was shocked to see Whoopi in this movie. I'm not going to tell you where in the movie she shows up, but I was like, wait, there goes Whoopi. And I don't want that to be a spoiler alert, but definitely look out for her. And I was just, so surprised, just like I was surprised to see Tamala Mann in it. And it was good. I recommend it 10 out of 10. I hope you go. Now, I will say, if you have suffered any abuse in your life and relationships, this could be a trigger. Now, this movie, to me, showed more of the violence that Mr. showed towards Celie. And I was just like, whoa, like some of the things that happened. Wait a minute. It wasn't necessarily a trigger for me, but I was thinking about other people, like, wow, this could be really a trigger. And I believe in the beginning of the movie, it alludes to that. It gives some type of disclaimer about that. So if you think that it might be a trigger for you, you might want to pause for a second and, but just know that redemption occurs at the end, as we all know how it ends in The Color Purple. The ending is the same, but it's the same in terms of, how she becomes a successful businesswoman, but it's different too in a way of how it all comes back together. So, you know what? Just go see it. I recommend it. It's definitely a great movie for you, your girlfriends, your husband, your partner. If you have young adult children, definitely. It's definitely going to be one of those historical movies. I can see it sitting on the shelf right next to the original. Some remakes, they just are just so like, you didn't even have to go there. But this one they did. It's more modernized in terms of the colors, the vibrancy, and it's really more modernized because of the cinematic upgrades that have occurred since the first version of it was put out. But all right, I don't want to give any spoilers. There's not really any spoilers to give because we all know how The Color Purple rolls. But just let me know in the comment section if you were able to see it, or if you're seeing this right before or after you see it on the 25th of December. Let me know what you think. Do you agree with my review, or do you have a different viewpoint of the movie? Or are you excited about it? Did you want it to be remade? It's still, but I'm glad they did at the end of the day. So I'm glad that you are here with me. Thanks for tuning in. Remember, don't forget to practice so hard that when you get in that game, you will play to win. I am Coach Sherry. It's been my pleasure. Take care and stay safe.